Guys, what's going on? It's your boy, Big Blue Drew 97 here to talk to you about Nanatsu no Taizai, 7 Daily Sins, Manga chapter 332, titled The Price. Now, you may be wondering, what is the price that this title is referring to? Is it the many lives that were taken? The amount of years it took to get to this time? The amount of destruction that was caused by this entire holy war? Actually, no, the price was just a Klondike bar. Yeah, who would have guessed it? But yeah, in all seriousness, this chapter of 7 Deadly Sins is... It kind of seems like the end. But then again, in this same series, we got a prologue that seemed like the series was ending. And the cliffhanger in one of those chapters was, Elizabeth being smashed with a rock. So really, anything goes at this moment in time. This could be the end of the series, or it could be the beginning of another arc. We just don't know. But hey, the chapter starts off with Meliodas killing the Demon King once again, and you just see Cthulhu's face. It looks like he basically just got snapped out of existence, like through Endgame, because he's just like fading away, just being destroyed. And luckily enough, none of the main characters die, because King just basically saves them, saves all of the sins from basically being destroyed, including himself. He doesn't save Meliodas because, he's Meliodas. But what happens later on is that the ground beneath Elizabeth, the Vampire Queen, and Zeldatros, it starts collapsing, and like everyone looks like it's about to die, especially Elizabeth. And this is like what I was referring to. Like many chapters ago, we thought Elizabeth was gonna get smashed by a rock. But actually, before we get to that part, there's just this huge explosion that literally just covers 90% of the page, more like 75 to 80% of the page. It looks like a Cubo spread during the end of Bleach. It's just literally black and white, covering like most of this page. And we see Hawk and his mother, and Hawk just gets sent flying away, no surprise. But we do see Mael for a little bit, but nah, he doesn't play like a big role or anything at all. He's just there. But we do know that he was on his way to the battle, basically to like help out, or like, actually no, he was just observing, like he couldn't help anymore. But we see Elizabeth, and we see that she's about to die. Oh no, the curse is still active. No, Meliodas destroys the rock, saves Elizabeth, and they just have like this moment of like, Meliodas, you saved me. Just that type of like moment where Elizabeth just stares at Meliodas, and Meliodas just looks badass. But then later on, Gilda's like, Zale, answer me. And everyone's like, Gilda, look up. And we just see Mael killing Zeldatros, and like Gilda looking happy, which, in all honesty, is actually like an amazing thing for Mael to do, because if we remember correctly, Mael used to be Esterosas, which was Meliodas's and Zeldatros's brother, because of like the mind erasure and changer that Gother, or other Gother, non-doll demon Gother did. So it just makes thematic sense that the one who really saved Zeldatros is his brother that he just completely hated and disowned, who was also an angel. So, irony. But yeah, everything just back to normal. The sins fall and hit the ground, and everyone begins to cheer. They're all exhausted. Elizabeth becomes the mage again and heals everyone, and after that we just get a lot of like just fun banter between the sins, and I really do enjoy it. We have Diane's like, oh man, I can sleep for a week, I'm exhausted, because Merlin says, oh yeah, boosted your powers to the limit, we're gonna sleep for a week after this. And Gother's like, nah, it's fine, this is Merlin magic, but it's fine, I'm a doll, I can't feel exhaustion. But then you see like the little like sound effects for creak, 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 click, click, crunch, and he immediately says, but I can't really push myself or I'll fall apart. And then we have King and Bond having an interaction, and King's like, by the way, how do you get married? And Bond is like, you idiot. And he's like, well, we're basically like family now. You're my brother-in-law. And Bond says, this sucks. So just a whole lot of fun banter. And then Diane just says, stop it, both of you. And then we just see Zeldatron coming and Meliodas. And a good question Zeldatron brings up with Meliodas, she just comes up and was like, how? How did you do it? With that combo attack, you could have destroyed the entirety of Britannia. How did you do it? And I think about it, this should have like been obvious to us, like, yeah, how did that happen? It's like, the Demon King's like, that attack would destroy all of Britannia, and we're like, oh no, he hit it at a different angle. No, he hit it towards the ground, so like, we should have realized, like, how did he do that? How did it survive? And it's the MacGuffin. It was the lake of eternal magic, eternal power, limitless magic, and I'm like, oh. Because I thought it would have been destroyed, because I thought it was like normal water, it would just fall down, but no. Apparently, because it's magic water, it literally retains its shape, even though it has lost like the basin, is what they say. And I'm like, so yeah, I guess, yeah, it didn't just play in the favor of the Demon King, it played in favor for the heroes as well. Just would have been great, and this could be because I started reading the manga later, but I really wish we would have like known about this sooner, because this would have just all tied it in. But I still thought it was a really good idea, and it explains like how like the explosion was upward, and as big as the explosion was, like why didn't it destroy anything below it? So yeah, Zeldatron makes a comment about that, and he's like so impressed by like how Meliodas was able to come up with the idea, and Meliodas is just like, nah, I didn't come up with that idea, it was Merlin. And Zeldatron just looks over at Merlin, and he just thinks, she's scary. That woman is scary. Which makes sense, because like between almost everyone here, she's like maybe the third oldest here. No, let me rephrase that. She is the third oldest here, and two of these people are literally gods and deities. She's like, if anything, she may even be the oldest. So that Merlin's actually terrifying. When you put more thought in like how she's able to do all of this and how busted her magic power of infinity is, yeah, no, she probably could have killed the Demon King by herself, which, spoiler alert, in the next few panels, and something that Diane puts out, the commandments are still active, meaning that they still are in existence, which means that the Demon King is still alive. So like, they've gone through like all of this power, and like they immediately like get prepared to like fight again. All of the Sins are preparing to fight, even though they're all exhausted, except for, you know, Escanor, but that's just Escanor. But then Merlin just comes in and is like, oh no, he's just basically like dormant. Like, he's a god, what do you expect? You can't just annihilate God so easily. He's like, oh yeah, he's gonna come back in like decades or centuries. And like Diane is like, oh man, that flies by. And Bond is like, no. But then King is like, yeah, it does. And I'm like, oh yeah, because they have like extended lifespans more than humans, and Bond is a human. It's just more funny interactions. But Merlin's like, oh, don't worry, I know a way to destroy him. Right, Meliodas? Like I said, I'm pretty sure she just knew how all of this was gonna go. And she's like, and Meliodas is like, yeah. And like, everyone's like, what? Wait, what? Like, what are you gonna do? How are you gonna do this? And then we get probably the best trope in anime, where it's like, I've been holding back this entire time. But this instance, it's like, I've been holding back this entire time, but if I went all the way, I probably would have destroyed this entire land. Because Zeldatron calls out, it's like, this is his true power. And he says, this rivals the power of the Demon King, if not greater. And you may be thinking, well, why didn't he use this in the battle? Well, it's obvious, because if he used it in the battle, the Sins would have died, Zeldatron would have died, Elizabeth definitely would have died, the Demon King would have died too, but like, yeah, that's really off balance, so it makes sense why he didn't use it in the fight, but it does make sense that he was able to deliver the final blow. So basically what he does now is just, the idea of it is, the only way you can really destroy a Demon King is with another Demon King's power. So that's basically what Meliodas is doing. So he basically just puts his power into like the commandments, just basically forcing them to be destroyed with his power and to wipe them out. And he has to make sure he's doing this good, because just the releasing of this power is literally destroying the land around them. Oh, sorry about that. And is blowing all of the sins away. It's like making people just terrified. And like at like the moment they're about to be destroyed, Zoltran just grabs his hand. And basically what he does is like, are you crazy? You have the power to rule the entire demon land. You could take Father's place. What are you doing, brother? And Meliodas is just like, yeah, I could rule the demon world with fear, like Dad did. And then Zoltran just has like that clear understanding in his eyes, just like, oh, yeah. And it's like, yeah, but that isn't my wish though. I don't want to rule, and like with fear, and you don't want to rule with it. I know you don't. You want to rule with peace and happiness so you can be with Gilda. And at this moment, this shows development for Zeldatros, where he's like, you're right. And he opens up more and lets Meliodas continue. And then Meliodas just has like this kind of monologue in his head where basically the idea is like, no matter like where you are in time, no matter what generation you are in, there's always going to be someone who will try to oppose you. But Meliodas is like, even if that is so, as long as I'm fighting with my friends and have people who follow my ideas, we will always resist it. And as soon as like, and he's like, that is his answer to like the future. The Demon King, hopefully, all of the commandments just disappear and are gone. And then the light shines and it looks like everything is all bright. A new day is upon us. So the like general like, this is the day, we have won type of scenario where the clouds break open and light shines in the sky, and they say it's all over. Meliodas says yes, and Meliodas just turns over and it's like, well, this calls for a celebration. Hey Zell, why don't you join us? And like he's like, nah, I'm not great around people. And he's like, oh yeah, well, okay, I won't force you. But then Zeldatron is like, but you know, if it's just a one-on-one drink. And like Meliodas is like, huh? And it's like, then you better keep track of the tab. Or you better pick up the tab. And like, he just has like this like look of like, I don't want to drink with you, but you know, you can pay for it. And Meliodas just grabs some and he's just happy and joyful. And then that's just how the chapter ends, which is a tie back to like a few chapters ago where like Zeldatros was in that dream sequence. He's like, I wanted to know what type of ale you drank. And like in reference to that, like wanted to drink with him. So like it just all gets tied together. So yeah, that's the end of the chapter. And I'm just going to be straight with y'all. 5 out of 5. I haven't really given a chapter a 5 out of 5, but after reading this chapter again, I really think that's a 5 out of 5 chapter. Because I enjoyed the interactions with the Ussins. I enjoyed how, because even though it was like a MacGuffin, it's still introduced prior to this, and it makes sense for like how something of like limitless power is able to absorb even more power because it has limits and because, you know, magic. But I also do enjoy like how it shows more development from Zeldatros, how it's like he was still in that mindset of like, oh yeah, I still need power to accomplish my goal, but then he also realizes, actually no, I don't. And Meliodas still falls on his like, yeah, I will always be here to protect my friends, and people will always follow my ideas, so no matter what the future holds for me, we will be able to fight. And also, it kind of solves the, really, elephant in the room of, well, how is he supposed to live in this world? Well, he exerted all of his Demon King power to destroy the Demon King, so theoretically, now he and Elizabeth can live here forever. Zeldatros and the Vampire Queen can go back to the demon world and rule. Bond can marry King's sister. King can marry Diane. The only things that really need to be wrapped up is what's going to happen with Escanor. And I think that's kind of what the next chapter might be, is Escanor's like, oh, this is great, and then dies, or it's like on death's bed. And like they all are like so happy and joyful, and Escanor's like, this is like the best moment of life. He gives his last speech and then dies. Because I feel as if like if no one dies, this could take away from like this entire series, especially with Esno when he's like the death flags were there. And he is basically like the human among gods, or human among just super creatures that can like wipe out lands. He's just a human, and like it's just taking its toll on him. So next chapter maybe Escanor dying. We don't get a title for what the next chapter will be, unfortunately, but like I said, my guess is that Escanor is probably going to die, or is going to collapse and lead to his death or something to that nature. But like I said, I really did enjoy this chapter. Interactions were great, resolution was also great, and potentially what it has set up for the next chapter will be amazing as well, because as far as we know, 7 Deadly Sins is coming to an end. And if it doesn't, I'm going to continue doing what I'm doing right now. But if not, it may end soon. But hopefully you enjoyed watching this video, and hopefully I'll be able to catch you guys next week. Bye. Ooh, yeah. Oh gosh, that was amazing.